Hey, welcome to the Consecrated Life Project. We are here, and this is where we talk about embracing your mission, living with purpose, and doing so with trust and confidence. Today, our guest is Allyson Chavez, and I just adore this lady. She has so much light and joy in her, and I've had the ability to be in her space and to be mentored and coached by her, and she pours her whole heart into what she does. And I'm really excited for you to hear some of her journey and where she's been and where she is now, and the way that God has led her and guided her in her life. So thank you for being here, Allyson.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here, Olivia. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Okay, so get rid of the quick 2 minutes here. Just give us a where you're from, what you do, what are you passionate about? Just a short overview of you.
So I'm Allyson Chavez, and I'm from Salt Lake City, Utah, and I am a prosperity transformation mentor. And my whole mission is to bring joy to the world and to show you how to harness the power of your mind and leverage the power of the universe to create the reality and the life you actually want to live, but doing it in a way that you enjoy the journey so that you have peace, you have that inner calm, you have that certainty as you go, so you're no longer doing the heavy lifting, because that's really the way that God has intended for us to create and to experience life to its fullest capacity of joy.
Awesome. I love it when you're so in your power because you've now found your mission, and I just love seeing it radiate from you. Okay, so give us a story here. Tell us how you came to find your mission and purpose.
I found my mission and purpose from banging on the wrong doors. Well, maybe not perhaps banging on the wrong doors, but really doing it from the wrong approach. I really was very, very interested in universal laws and natural laws that govern prosperity, that govern creation. And but I had this belief that it was all up to me, and I was the one who had to do it. But I knew I had this mission, and I knew I wanted to share it with the world. I was very clear that that's what God wanted me to do. He also wanted me to monetize it, but I was so wrapped up in I've got to do this and I've got to do that. And I had this belief that having a big business was actually too big for me. And it was something that I wouldn't be able to hold and I wouldn't be able to handle. So even though within a relatively short amount of time, I had grown my business quite successfully, I was in a constant state of near panic and anxiety that I would lose all of the financial ground that we had gained. And I have no problem talking about money. We were making about $25,000 a month within 2 years of starting my business. And we'd never made that kind of money before, which is why I was so freaked out about losing it, because I didn't have the proper belief system or the confidence behind it to really even maintain it, much less grow it. And because of that belief system, my business had to collapse. The universal laws work all the time. They work perfectly, even if you don't work correctly with them. And so I got into a really, really dark space for a couple of years, actually, as I was trying to piece my business back together and build it again and make it successful again. And I finally got to the point where I was like, you know what? I told my husband it was making me bipolar and quasi-suicidal because I had made the horrific mistake of tying up my worth or my value in the success or non-success of my business. So I had to shelf it for a little bit, put it on the back burner just a little bit. And then I thought, you know what, I want to do something fun. I want to do something that makes me feel better, that it doesn't matter if I succeed or not. We'll still be able to eat. We'll still be able to feed our 4 children. It will be all right. And that from that broken place that I was at the perfect place for God to work with me. And he was like, okay, she's ready now to really learn what co-creation is and the steps to do it. And so over the next 3 months, I really wanted to go to Hawaii, and I wanted to take my family of 6 to Hawaii. And we were at a point where that was not even in the cards. We were $1,500 behind every month in our bills. We couldn't get groceries, much less fly to Hawaii. And I just didn't care. I was tired of feeling like a failure. I was tired of all of that nonsense going on in my mind. And I just decided this is what I wanted, and I wanted it because I wanted it. And I had no idea that I was about to change everything. I was about to change the trajectory my family was on. I certainly changed the trajectory my business was on. And within about 3 months, we went to Hawaii. Long story, really, really short. We did it. And I was told very clearly that I needed to document what it was that I did to get our family to Hawaii, because it was easy and it was fun and it was joyful and it was surprising the way the money came to us so that we could have this amazing experience together in Hawaii. And when I looked at it, I was told, you just cracked the code. You cracked the code on how to create correctly and how to manifest properly. And now you must teach it. And I was like, oh yes, I must teach it, because this is really, really fun. And I used to be a destination kind of girl rather than a journey kind of girl. I hated the journey. It was scary. It was filled with uncertainty. It might not work out. I was like, let's skip the journey and get straight to the destination. And the whole process was filled with so much joy and so much ease that I've just become very, very passionate about the journey, because I discovered that the journey really is the destination. The destination will have the same flavor that the journey had. And so my whole mission is to bring joy to the world, and for you to bring joy to your world as well, to know what your part is and what God's part is, and only do your part, and then watch the magic and watch the miracles happen, because it's designed. That's how it's proper. That's how it's designed to actually work.
Awesome. So what was your point when you were 100% committed to God, to say, okay, I'm going to do it your way. I'm going to put away all my fear and all my doubt that it's not going to work, and I'm going to really trust God's way?
I was so fed up with how I was thinking, it became absolutely intolerable for me to be thinking the way that I was thinking. Because it was, you led your family into financial ruin. You're a fraud. You are a failure. You can't get anything right. It was like all of that. And it just yelled at me all day long. And I was finally like, I am done. I am done listening to this. And so it just got to a point where it was intolerable and unacceptable for me. And I found that in order for the process that I was given to actually work, that's one of the qualifications. You have to be at a place where it's unacceptable to you anymore. You are no longer available for the doubt. You're no longer available for the feelings of failure. You're no longer available for that critical voice inside you that you believe and you listen to and you obey. Like I was just done. I was done with that. And I was like, you know what? God knows a whole lot better than I do how to actually do this. And I know that God is not a God of confusion, and he's not a God of fear. And this is what I have been listening to and, for lack of a better word, worshiping for a couple of years. And I was done. I was done with that. And so it was actually quite easy, because the whole reason I wanted to take my family to Hawaii and I wanted to use my mind to manifest it, I just wanted to feel better. Like, that's it. I just wanted for 10 minutes at a time or 3 minutes at a time not to be screaming at myself about what a screw up I was. I just wanted to feel better minute by minute by minute. And that was my whole big old agenda for all of it, was just to feel better. And when it's so simple and it's so straightforward like that, then you get really coachable. Like Heavenly Father can use you really well when you're like, I'm not going to listen to this anymore. I'm going to listen to this. And then the voice comes so much more clearly, because it's not cluttered by the confusion and the fear and the doubt and the disbelief, because he can't work with that. When your mind is filled with that, he cannot work with it.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, and I find a lot of times that people think, oh, if I do what I'm supposed to do and I do all these things, then I will prosper. But they forget about the commandments of doubt not, fear not, and that you're supposed to have joy. A man is that he may have joy. And these are the things that it's like, these are the core things that we we know, but we don't apply.
Yes. So I had a mentor once that said there's a difference between knowing and having. And most people know, but very few people actually have. And so like, yeah, I know I'm not supposed to fear, but you don't understand. These are my circumstances. Like you don't understand how impossible this is. Yeah, I know, don't fear, but you don't understand how much anxiety I have and how hard this is. and that vocabulary is so familiar, because I used to run it as well. But when I was finally like, I'm never going to have a problem of like cheating on my spouse. I'm never going to have a problem of murdering somebody. Like, those commandments are really, really easy for me to keep. The ones that I continue to violate all the time was doubt not, fear not. So I was like, oh yeah, I need to get aligned with that really well, because I feel so much better when I'm not in fear, and I feel so much better when I'm not in doubt. And it becomes a decision. It really becomes a decision, and it's as easy as that. And what are you available to, and what are you unavailable to any longer? And then everything changes from there.
That's beautiful. There was this quote that I heard yesterday, I think it was in a podcast, and they said, you think that you messed it all up, that I did this and it didn't work out, so I screwed up God's plan for my life. And who are you to think that? You think you're more powerful than to mess up God's plan? Like,
well, and it's like, is God surprised that by this, like, well, I wasn't expecting that from her. Like, he knows you better than you know yourself. Like, you're not going to surprise him at all. And that's what's so beautiful about it, that so many of the things that we create and experiences that we create, and some of the things, like, let's just be honest, sometimes we just mess it up royally, and yet God can still work with that. There are always blessings and miracles to be found in our imperfections, and in, I firmly believe that everybody is doing the best they can with the tools and the knowledge and the light that they have. And when we get better tools, when we set down the I don't know, the screwdriver for the electric screwdriver, like, holy cow, it becomes so much faster and so much more efficient. And then we're just like, well, why did I do that sooner? Well, you weren't ready for it sooner. But this path is actually what's going to lead you, if you allow it to exactly where you are meant to be. It's like the only way out is through. And that's where the magic is. That's where the beautiful lessons, not to teach you a lesson and not to be punitive in any way, but like, there was so much growth that happened during that time. And I went from faith to certainty. And that was the most beautiful experience I've ever had, in the midst of talking to creditors every day. And in the midst of, like, I don't know how we're going to pay this bill, but like, going from that faith and then moving into certainty. Oh, there is nothing juicier in this world than living in certainty. So it was absolutely worth my mess up and my screw up to get that gift that was on the other side of it, which was certainty.
Yeah. Well, and I think of it like our kids too. You see your child and you know that child's about to try this science experiment, it's going to explode on the kitchen, or that child is about to jump off of something way too high for them. And you know this because you know your children so well. And so you prepare ahead of time. Okay, maybe I'll say this one thing that might help them, or maybe I will, move a cushion so it's going to catch them, or whatever, that you know what's happening because you know your kids so well. And God knows us that well too.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, absolutely. And I've discovered too that God is in the details, and he walks through our darkness with him, but it requires us to look for how God is actually showing up in your life during that dark time and during that time of unsteadiness and instability, because he's absolutely there. But we get so enthralled and we get so distracted by the drama and the what isness of the reality that we've created that can be very difficult to find the blessings. It can be very difficult to find God's hand in it if we're not actively looking for it. But can I just say that that's what makes the journey so amazing, and it makes that dark, unstable time much more smooth, and it shortens the amount of time that you're there when you're really looking for evidence that you're supported, and evidence that everything always works out for you and that you're all right. And not only are you all right, like, you're thriving and you're amazing, regardless of what the circumstances tell you.
Yes, awesome. Okay, that takes us into our next question. What opposition or resistance have you faced, and what is your go-to? What do you do to get through that?
The opposition that I faced right at the very beginning was massive amounts of self-doubt. Like, I tell people, I would take a shower and a bath in self-doubt at the beginning of every morning, and then I would sprinkle myself with it throughout the day. And so it's very difficult to be in certainty when you second guess absolutely everything. And so when the what if comes up, like, what if this doesn't work? And you know, when you make yourself unavailable to it, it actually just kind of goes away because there's like, I'm just not available for it not to work. Like, if it doesn't turn out the way I think, it's because there's a better way for it to come. It's because God's got something grander in mind for me. And so it can help me let go of any outcome that I might be tied to. But it's just that decision, and it's that pivoting that is so crucial. Like, I'm just not available to hear that criticism anymore. Like, so you get to go. You get to go, because I know that you're not from a source that I want to actually be listening to. And that's not, I don't play in darkness, I only play in light. And so you must leave. You must leave. And when you're coming at it from a place of authority, when you're coming at it from a place of command, instead of, please don't beat me up, doubt, please don't beat me up, fear, please don't beat, like, when you're doing that, then it's going to tromp all over you. But when you are in command, like when you tell your toddler or your 3-year-old, stop, they're like they totally stop. Right? It's that kind of thing. And the lower frequencies and the lower energies must give way to the higher frequencies of that certainty, of that authority, and of that command that it must depart from you. So all of the opposition I created myself, and I've found that most of us create our own opposition.
Yeah. Well, and just like you're talking about the frequency, some people might not understand quite what that is, but basically it's light versus dark. Light casteth out all fear, light casteth out all darkness, and darkness can't exist in the presence of light. And we come from heaven, and we come from God, so we're light. And so therefore, the darkness can't stay as long as you're standing in your light.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, I think we've covered most of those. Okay, can you think of a moment in your life where you were going in one direction, and you're like, I think I got this, this is my path, and then God's like, nope, go this way. It doesn't have to be in business, and anything simple or family or anything.
Yes, actually, it's happening right now, and I've had a little bit of back and forth with God about it. So one of the processes I teach was from a mentor that I had, and so I wanted to really, really dive into that and just like really fill it out and be able to really just teach his entire methodology. And I'm like, that is what I want. And so so you have to audition in order, like basically you got to audition, you got to apply, and you got to audition in order to see if he'll accept you into his mentoring program so that you can be certified in his method. So I jumped through those hoops and I made it, and I was so excited. And at the very end, it culminates in this 2-day training that you have to be there live. Well, it just so happens that I had a prior commitment where I'm going to be in India the same day that the training is taking place. And so I was like, well, I just can't go to India then. Like, that's just it, because I'm very clear that that's the direction I'm going. And I was talking to my mentor, and she was like, no, there's a reason why there is this overlap that happened. Of all of the days in the month, like those 2 days would overlap. Like there's a reason for this. And I think that you're meant to develop your own methodology. And I was like, no, I'm afraid you're wrong, because I'm not big like that. And who am I to actually do that? And that's too big for me. So I had this back and forth with her, and she's like, you just need to sit with it. And so I ended up having an argument with God about it. And he was just very, very clear to me that's my direction to go, that I'm much bigger than I think I am. And I'm like, well, okay, so and that was a path I really wanted to go down. And it wasn't like, hey, let's see what illegal drugs will do for my body. It wasn't like a path that's bad, right, or that's going to lead to unhappiness. But there is a brighter path and a bigger path that I didn't even imagine that's there. And that takes, quite honestly, it takes a great deal of faith and a great deal of courage to walk that kind of a path. But I've committed to following the nudges. I commit to following the nudges, and whether they make sense to me or whether they feel uncomfortable to me, or whether they're logical or not, that was my commitment to God, that I follow the nudges. And so I'm like, okay, well, you got to bring it to me then, because I have no idea how to do this. And he's like, I gotcha. I gotcha. So I'm just at the very beginning of that path, and it's going to be amazing. I have no idea. I have no idea what it's going to turn into. I just know that it's going to be miraculous and such an honor and so humbling for him to use me as an instrument in a different way from what I had thought.
Well, when at least I found that I feel like I'm on this path. I'm like, hey, I know what God wants me to do when I'm going. And then you go back to that scripture that God has more in mind for you than you can ever imagine for yourself. And you're like, whoa. So now I'm kind of just like, okay, this is where I'm at. This is what I was told to do. Don't know where I'm going from here. Just trusting you. And here we go.
Yeah. And it's like, you know what, Father, just use me. Just use me. I'm an instrument, and I really want to bring joy to this world. And however that's going to bring me and my family the most joy, and however is the best, you know how to use me better than I do. And so take me, like here I am, just use me.
Oh, it's so beautiful. Love that. Okay, you can tell me if you have any extra insights on this one or if you feel like you already covered it. It was share a time when you have looked like you failed to the world and what you learned from it.
Let me give you a different aspect of that whole failure period. That was about 2.5 years. One of the things that I really bucked up against is imposter syndrome, and people who are entrepreneurs or who are like trying to expand in any way. I really believe, especially where soul expansion is concerned, that we get hit with this belief about being a fraud, or I don't have all my crap together, so how can I possibly teach this if I haven't mastered it, or if, you know, there's still this stuff over here that I haven't dealt with, so how can I talk about la 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 with any degree of authority? And so we have this imposter and fraud syndrome come up, and I was teaching prosperity while we were knocking on the door of bankruptcy. And so all evidence showed me like I had no business whatsoever teaching this. And yet I knew what I was teaching was true, even if I was not applying it correctly. It didn't change the principles. It didn't change the truths. And it was also this testing ground to be like, Allyson, are you going to claim this? Are you going to own being a prosperity transformation coach when all of the, quote, physical evidence does not attest to that? Are you just going to own it? And so I continue to own it again and again and again in my mind. And when you continually do that, and when you continually claim that mental ownership for what you know in your heart is what you long to be. I didn't just want to make $1 million to make $1 million. I wanted to be the woman who lived in the frequency of such massive value that she was giving to the world, that as a result of that, I was blessed in very tangible ways, and my family was blessed in very tangible ways. And so it requires you to continually own that regardless of what the physical circumstances look like. And in that times of our, quote, failure is our greatest, most impressive proving ground. Are we really committed to our mission? Are we really committed to that burning desire that's in our heart? And I fully believe that anybody who aspires to any level of greatness is going to be required to walk through their own kind of crucible. And that it doesn't necessarily mean that all your finances are going to fall apart. It can come in various ways. But if you want to attain that level of greatness, that if you're watching the Consecrated Life Project interviews, you do, like, there's this deeper piece of you that's like, I am meant for more. I am meant for bigger. And do I have permission to claim this? And the answer to that is absolutely yes. It's your duty to claim it. But just know that there will come this testing ground, and that's okay. That's part of it. It tests your mettle, it tests your resolve, it tests your commitment to it. And when you can just like really dig into your heart and continue to claim it, life just opens up for you, and you realize that was the most incredible experience. Not that I'm anxious to ever do it again. I made sure that I learned the lessons that were there for me, but it becomes this sacred Gethsemane kind of a moment where it was absolutely worth it for what was on the other side of it, because there's always something incredible on the other side of a catastrophe. By law, it has to be there. It has to.
It was beautiful. God definitely blesses us with much more than we can ever imagine.
Oh, yes. Amen, sister.
Okay, so make sure you click on the links that are going to be below the video on the YouTube channel and everything else to get all the goodies, all the details, any super awesome offers that Allyson has for us, as well as anything, insights that we've come from the inside there. And check out the other interviews. We're glad that you're here. Thank you, Allyson, for being with us.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.